Hello. Welcome, welcome everyone. Calling in the luminous ones. Welcome, welcome everyone. Ooh, 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 ooh. Hello, I'm back so soon again. Yes. Hello. Hi. Let's move the smoke out of here. So I have a little bit of a setup here and I'm going to do something a little different. I often here on TikTok share a lot of my word-based things, and we'll do some of that too, but I thought at first I would do a little bit of music and sound transmission. I love doing what I call elemental transmissions, which is a form of light language. I actually just posted a video of Assyrian dialect light language activation. And so this is something that I weave into my practice when I'm working with clients, and thought I'd start sharing it more here. Let's see. Deja Vu, it's good to see you too. Yeah, I had a live last night. I'll be posting the whole thing on my YouTube channel this afternoon, and then I'll probably cut some little videos out of it for us to enjoy here on TikTok. So I'm just gonna start doing some things here, and I invite you to just sort of still your body, get comfortable, hydrate if that's an option for you right now. And I'm going to invite in some soft energies that are also really supportive, really cleansing, and hopefully are going to make you feel more consciously connected to your own divinity. This is sage water. It's so nice. I'm so grateful to that teacher and the peoples of the South who have maintained the traditions of white sage. Okay, let's see here. Let's start with the flute. So just breathe deep and allow whatever is moving for you to just flow. And I want to invite everyone to keep the foot portals open. And what that means is, imagine at the bottom of your foot, sort of in the middle, there's a spiraling portal, and so often we close that off unconsciously, trying to pull up from the earth. And what we really want to do is invite those to open and relax as much as possible, because that shifts the way our energy flows in this reality in a way that can be quite surprising. So open up the foot portals. Just imagine it spiraling open. We don't effort, we just invite and allow. And with that, the energies will move smoothly up and down through your systems, cleansing and realigning, grounding, rooting, centering. energy clearer there. It's an Andean flute. I'm sorry, it's a Native American flute with a Andean contour on it. Okay, so as we're using sound to move energy, especially as there's a lot of movement happening in the collective, there's a lot of change and shift happening in our own lives. As I've been talking about recently with many people and in the live last night, our task as new dimension healers, as light bearers, and those who are awakening on this planet is to really bring all of that light down into the body, into the earth plane, and into our lives. And so we're all being called to physicalize our magic far more than ever before. And sometimes that can be rough on the system. Our ascension symptoms, as we call them, can get amplified, can become even more uncomfortable. And so we want to be experimenting with more physicalized ways of moving the energy through this next year. Things like sound healing, working with music, dance, really intentional body work, massage, and other ways of physically working the tissues are going to be really helpful to us this year. Hot cold plunge is a really nice one also to kind of bring the nervous system back into balance. So that's just a little seed to plant. So I carry several different dialects of what people call light language, galactic language, etc. And there are particular ones that I tend to work with more than others. And one of my favorites is this particular fifth dimensional Syrian elemental dialect. Some people call them fairies. And we tune in, or I tune in, I say we. We tune into this particular dialect in trying to tie this 3D, 4D awareness more directly into awareness of one's own divinity, right? Which is always there. It's just hard to feel it sometimes or to remember that that's the truth of you. So as I start to do this elemental transmission, I invite you to tune into the portal of your heart and imagine it as some sort of planty natural space, an orchard, a garden, a forest, whatever resonates, whatever pops up in the moment. Plant yourself there. Offer yourself to the plants, to the elemental spirit, so that they can work on you, so that they can tend to the little details, the little threads that matter so much. Allow them to wash through you, remembering that everything is light, that there are only supported beings here, and that your own spirit team is right here, right now with you, surrounding you, holding you, and quite actively working on you. In this energetic space, there is a co-creation and a collaboration that's happening between my soul and how it's guiding me and your soul and how it's guiding you. Re o ro a re o ra o a re ro a re o re o ra o a re o ra o a re ro Hore oro rai yosho ware ware oa re oa sha re oa sha re oa sha re ocean, re ocean, re ocean, re ocean, re ocean, re ocean. Hare tua, hare tua, shere tua jo, re o jo, re o jo, hore roa. Hore oa, hore oa, hare o, hare o, hore o, shao. As humans in this embodiment, it's easy for us to drop into the aesthetic experience, how beautiful it feels, how good it feels. And that's our gateway to the truth of the energy, to the truth of ourselves within that context, to open and relax and expand into the container of all of this galactic light, this celestial wonder, the truth of your divinity on the earth plane. So let it wash over all the little sounds, the light language dialect. All of these are like tiny little doctors moving into your field. And if you still yourself and surrender to it, you may actually be able to feel your spirit guides individually working on your system or hear specific guidance. So I invite you to really create space for that. So this song has a little bit of a hypnotic quality to it. So if you're listening while driving, maybe don't. And one of the energies it brings in is reconnecting with your ancestors. So if you want to reconnect with your ancestors, bring that invitation in, speak it to yourself or aloud. And if you're not feeling open to that today, that's okay too. It will wash past you, is the phrasing Spirit's using. Just write little activations. So I was listening to sort of the conversation some of y'all are having, either consciously or less consciously, with your spirit team. And I want to note for those who are watching, who are still here, that there are several of you who are kind of reaching and ever searching to have a deeper connection with your spirit team. And it is a matter of literally like turning your head 2 inches is the equivalent. That's what they were saying. It's like, it's not even taking a step over. It's like, just slightly turn your head, metaphorically. What that really means is you are so close. It's some tiny little bit of conditioning that is creating the block between your conscious awareness and the communications with your spirit team. And so as you're sitting in the opportunity to connect with your team, either now or in other moments, feel into what are the feelings that rise up. You reach out, you speak to them, you're waiting for some sort of, yeah, I'll say that in a minute. They're all like chatting. You're waiting for some sort of communication to come through. And in that moment of noticing that that desire is not being fulfilled, the question is, what are you feeling? What are the memories that are coming up? Is there fear? Is there anger? Is there a contraction? That is where the information is. That's the key. Because if we can pull out those threads of information that no longer serve you, or perhaps were never yours to begin with, then that channel opens up for communication between you and your team. The way we move that energy, and this is a nutshell, this is what I do in one-on-one sessions, by the way, is we do a lot of energy clearing and reconnecting and training and such. The easy way to summarize this here is that we want to do is ground, root, center, open ourselves, still ourselves, and allow the energy to flow out. If you're running it yourself, that's the easiest procedure. And it takes practice to learn not to force it. You almost want to forget that you're doing it. Just give it the space. And a reminder to everyone, I know I say this almost every live, but it takes 10 to 30 seconds for energy to pass through the body when it's in ideal conditions. So you may land a new truth or awareness, but if you don't give it that 10 to 30 seconds to fully land through all of the dimensions of you, it's not going to anchor in the way that you're hoping. Space is key. Surrendering is key. Not efforting is key. So spaces like this, sound healing spaces, transmission spaces, right now you're all sitting in a 4th dimensional bubble, if you're in here with me, then those are the places where it becomes just a little bit easier to notice and access the energy that is ready to leave. All right, wait, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, so there are a few of you where your spirit team is pointing to the fact that you're trying so hard to connect with them, and they are connecting with you, but there's so much effort and habit of not hearing and seeing that you're just not noticing. So it's almost like coming into beginner's mind, into child's mind, and maybe for a few days even take the practice of considering every little thing, every little inkling that was like, oh, is that a sign? Is that a communication? Just assume yes. Doesn't matter if you're right or not. Give yourself permission for a few days to just take everything as your spirit team is making contact with you. And that doesn't mean make like big life choices based on these moments. We're trying to tune you into greater awareness and discernment, but opening the channel and starting to retrain the ego consciousness that this is already happening. The communication is there. The channel is open. You are able to do this. That's all you need to do at this point. So many of you. Okay, I want to pull cards. No. Okay. This is fun. I normally am just like direct from source, and so like playing with the like ancestors and your guides and all of that this is juicy, guys, for me. So we're gonna do a little chime work here to sort of clear the space a little for some of you. Some of you also are like multitasking, which is fine. Just know that it doesn't allow the the sound and the energy to flow through quite as easily. It doesn't mean you're not getting a lot out of it still. All right. So everyone close your eyes, breathe. Ground root center, feel the seat of you. Feel the sits bones. Clench and release the pelvic floor a few times. It's like a pump. Get those kegels in. And again, for those who are just joining, the invitation is to open the portals of your feet, to allow the energies to really move freely, just to invite and allow that spiraling open. I hear someone out there wondering why often in spiritual contexts we do things in threes. There are many reasons, but from my perspective as a portal specialist, that shape, the triangle, the 3 points, having dichotomy plus a third, this allows motion and movement, right? Like that helps to create the spiraling action, which is key to reality building in most universes. There are lots of other reasons, but that's the interdimensional physics reason. Let's see what's happening down here. Thanks for all the love. Oh, guys, it's so good to be here with you guys again. Katie Ape, you are one of the ones who they're like, oh, the connection's already there. It's just the conditioning. Like, so cool if you feel comfortable with that. There's no end goal. There's no perfect expression. We're all just doing what feels good and feels right and aligned in our moment. But because you're noting that you know that they're there, but you can't feel them. You are specifically one of the people. They said the connection is already there. It's just like clearing the conditioning that keeps you from consciously noticing. Who else is down here? Trisha, yeah. Claudia, hi. It's good to see you too. Yes, Katie, you knew it was you. Exactly, because you're that aware. Precisely. Right? All right, I'm gonna put a little 13 plantas. This is a special flower water agua florida that I make. It's 13 plants plus citrine water. It's like highly, highly cleansing and protective. It has like so much camphor in it. It smells like the jungle. Sabor. Maybe I should sell this. It's like so much flow happening. I love y'all's teams. Like this is really fun. Okay, cards. I hear you guys. So let's pull some animals. I feel called when working with this deck. So this is the like animal medicine deck that has been around, I think, for 40 years. And I want to name that spirit animals, working with animal medicines. This is a group of traditions that is really rooted in specific indigenous realms. And we as practitioners, as those who are awakening, we're tapping into the indigenous wisdom from all over the world. And it's also important to acknowledge that there are others who have tended to these technologies and kept them alive for us all the way to this point. And so I just want to offer gratitude to all of the peoples who have kept the wisdom and technologies of the animals and their medicines alive so that we could reconnect with them at this time. Let's see, what are we calling in here? Let's move the chachalaca feather. It's Anybody familiar with the chachalaca bird? This is from my dad's backyard. Calling in guidance for those who are present now and in the future. What is the medicine that wants to guide and support the highest illumination, highest emanation, highest alignment? One more in a cup, they say. All right. Who shows up? Okay, so first we've got beaver medicine. Guys, this in a way is kind of like a theme for the year. So beaver medicine is, should I do it like this? Can you guys see it that way? Beaver medicine is building. These are builders of all forms. All of y'all are also builders. You're builders of the new dimension, builders of a new way of light. And they do this through persistence and through community. And their work is not motivated by hoarding or deep fear. It's actually motivated through nourishment, right? Creating home, working the waters, allowing for a storage of nutrients to be present near to where they live. You know, this is forward thinking without getting lost in the fear. This is planning and building as empowerment. And that's what we're doing this year. 2023 is a huge building year, especially for folks like us. More. That's what we guess. Ant. So ant is teeny tiny details, again, towards building, towards a communal way of being. Ant also is a medicine of being in flow with massive creation, right? Because the ants aren't sitting there each debating what their role is and how to make this happen and figuring it, like, they are in alignment. They move forward, they move as one. And when one falls, another immediately picks up the load and continues on. And that noticing that the magic is in the details is a key part of ant medicine this year. I've been talking about the rabbit year and how that's starting on Sunday and how we're tending to security and home and connection and nourishment. What are the things that make us feel good and open and expanded in our lives? And the way that we get there is tuning into things like ant medicine, tuning into the ways that how you wash the dishes or the way you prep for the day beforehand. These little things are the magic of humaning here. And those are the places where you're really invited this year to find all the ways to weave your personal magic, your personal medicine in. Raven. Magic. So Raven in so many traditions is a carrier of messages and magic. Raven is outside of space and time, can move in and out of the mystery, bringing wisdom and communications from unseen places. Raven here also in relationship with beaver and ant is reinforcing this idea that it isn't the fear-based choices that are to drive us. It's the magic-based choices. It's building towards a life that is illuminated, that actually brings the flow, the stability, the sustainable planning into place. We no longer are in a place where we can separate out our light and magic from our humaning, what I like to call muggling. It's all one thing. And we're starting to see in the world around us more and more that people are becoming accustomed to the increased multidimensionality that's flowing in this reality. And it's showing up in little places. You might notice, just like a staunch atheist is suddenly curious about you know, some sort of Native American ceremony or something like that. Like there's these little softenings. We're like, identities are softening, and thus what we're open to exploring opens up. And so Raven, also, I'm like literally there, I can feel a raven right here. Raven is whispering in my ear. Hold on. Ritual. Bring ritual into your lives. Whatever that means. That might mean you're standing at the coffee maker in the morning and you take 5 seconds just to like connect with the fact that you're making coffee and be like, I'm making a magical elixir of electricity that will magnify my magic in my body. Boom. Do it regularly. Do it with intention. A ritual is born. It doesn't have to be complicated and fancy and expensive. Really, you carry the magic. You are the medicine. One more. That's such sweet cards, y'all. Raccoon. So raccoon's the generous protector. Raccoons travel around in little bands together. They collaborate. They take care of each other. They make sure that everyone in the crew has enough to eat. So you won't see like a group of raccoons hunt and then one will just like hoard and gobble. Like they make sure everyone gets what they need. And that is a role that we're all sitting in this year, probably through our whole lives. It's something that is familiar to us. And keeping that in mind, seeing the magic in that, allowing it to be a place of power instead of a place of constriction and servitude, as can be easy to feel sometimes, will shift the way the energy is flowing and our ability to co-create with the reality around us and the other beings around us. And it's not just those who are in your life outside of yourself. Be the generous protector of yourself, your life, your energy, your light. That means saying no a lot. Okay, yes, there's like a chorus of spirit team. They're like, hallelujah. No is going to be one of your best friends this whole calendar year. Say no, because when you're saying no to something that is not in alignment, and I mean even slightly, like the opportunity comes up and instead of a forward opening, it's just like a, I have to think about that. Like, let me see if I can figure that out. Like figuring it out means it's a not yes, right? When you have that openness and you're like, oh, yeah, I don't know how that's going to happen, but make it happen. Not a big deal. That's a yes. That's a soul yes. So being the generous protector is going to support you, not only in developing that discernment and those boundaries, but being able to feel whole, nourished, grounded in the container of yourself. It's from that whole self place that your magic is able to feel safe enough to truly blossom and be in the world, so that you can focus in on the sacred details of your life and build the structures, the pathways that are meant for your highest emanation on this planet. That's what we're all here doing. What's the meaning of life? The meaning of life is to be the highest emanation of your soul's intentions. Boom. All right, what's happening down here? Nice. Yes, let's all make our own OF Floridas. These are all things that we can do so easily, are a way to practice our magic. And it's also a way to have specific control over the energetics you're feeding into your field, right? So like when I made Trece Plantas, I was saying prayers and singing and speaking intentions into this bottle. Well, not this bottle, but the main bottle. I was vibrationally programming the fluid and connecting with the spirits of the plants and asking for a particular kind of co-creation, right? So like this is hyper protective and cleansing. And you can do that with the water you're drinking, right? And for some, it can feel a little bit of a stretch, and that doesn't matter, right? Like fake it till you make it. use the imagination. The imagination is your portal into the quantum. Play. Okay. Something else is coming in. Ooh, Shruti. Let's do Shruti, y'all. I hadn't unpacked it actually because I don't think we're gonna get this. I might want to set up a good mic next time. How is the sound on these instruments? I love the Shruti box. Okay, apparently the song that's coming in is a pretty activating song for some, and it's a song of remembering. It is calling in your galactic awareness, your larger divinity, the truth of you, and calling in memory, ancient memory, other lifetime, other dimension memory. Some of you may feel little threads of distant things move through or out. A lot of times as we're bringing back our ancient memory, that process requires that something clear out first. Everything's here already. It's just being blocked from our awareness in different ways. So some people might feel energy movement, tears, laughter, yawning. It could be almost anything. The need to pee. Feel free to take us into the bathroom with you.
Ya es el tiempo de recordar, llena de amor a recordar. Venimos de las estrellas a bailar en esta tierra. Gangana Pate Namo Namah Shri Siddhinayaka Namo Namah Ashtavinayaka mohorea gangana bhakte namo nama Shri Divinity namo nama Ashtavinayaka namo nama Ganapate Baba Mohorea y ya es el tiempo de recordar llena de amor a recordar venimos de las estrellas a bailar en esta tierra gangana pate namo nama Shri Divinayaka namo nama Ashtavinayaka namo nama Ganapate Baba Mohorea Ganapate Baba Mohorea Ganapate Baba Mohorea
May we all feel the truth of ourselves, our emanations on the earth and beyond. May we remember all that we are. May we remember the truth of ourselves and the path ahead. May we remember that we are beings of light, of joy, of ease, at our truest core. May guidance, may health, may flow be ever at your fingertips. So it is. I'm working a ceremony this weekend, so this is good. Warm up. It's interesting as I say that, there's like a whole boatload of Amazonian plants that suddenly file and they're like, oh, can we play too? I'm like, maybe not today. Let's set a specific intention for that live. I mean, they go where I go, but it's the middle of the afternoon. Okay, what's happening down here, y'all? Thanks for the sound check. Untwist the channels of our truest being. Embody the wholeness of spirit here and now. Well said. Yeah. Untwist the channels of our being. I love that. All right. Are there questions? I feel like that's a good activation and juice up. I can do some chatting here. Shuffle some cards while you guys think of questions. This deck, which we used last night on the live, the Work Your Light deck, is my favorite deck. Oh, this is a great one to just look at. It's my favorite deck to use in conjunction with plant medicine work. Partly because the visuals are so charged. They're like crystalline. But also because the messaging is just right. Great question. Thoughts on channeled writing and art? Many. Let's see. What wants to be spoken right here? This is a huge part of my life. Huge. So, all creation that comes through us is channeling. You are channeling yourself into this reality. And when you are creating, you are, whether consciously or not, in connection with your soul. And your soul is communicating through you. The ego consciousness is not a creative force. It's just the machinery the creative force moves through. So that's the first piece. When we are creating, especially writing, I have a master's degree in writing. So when we're writing, it is an interesting balance between the soul divine awareness and the intellect, because we're languaging things and we're interacting with grammars, things like that. I'm gonna need to put my glasses on, guys. My eyes are getting tired. I'm very light sensitive and I have a light in my face. You can see my eyes kind of, yeah. So it is such an incredible practice and can be very tricky when we're creating with words, because many of us, we have a flow with that. We're used to writing emails and talking and all of this. And when we're creating and wanting to create through alignment, then we want to notice the vibration. And we've all had that experience. An email, I think, is an easy way to do it, or to explain this, is that, we've all had that experience of writing an email and then we want to go back and change wording, or something doesn't feel quite right. And then there's that relief that we feel, or the rightness that we feel when we remove something. That is the divine editing process in its most simple form. So whether you're painting or writing a song or composing a poem, there is a dance that's happening between the conditioning of your ego consciousness and your soul emanation. And for those of you who have gone through the art school experience, you'll know that there's a whole lot of work that goes into simply being able to open up to the flow and the truth that moves through you. Silencing the inner critic, not immediately putting constrictions on things before they're able to be fully born. And those are spiritual concepts too, right? So when we allow that flow to move through, we are channeling, we're nourishing our tissues simply by participating in that. It's also a mindfulness practice when we're able to be fully present in our writing and art making. So you can use that as a tool to modify what your experience is. It also allows, to move out of writing for a moment. Other art making practices are ways for you to sort of bypass some of the ego constructs and conditioning to tap into energy that is harder to access, right? So, process painting is a good example of a practice like this. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, process painting is sort of an intuitive painting. It's not about creating a picture or a particular communication. It is literally communicating an emotion or an energy or the now moment, and whatever comes out. It could look super abstract. It could end up being, a crazy fruit bowl. But the point is, it doesn't matter what the outcome is. It's the journey. And that's one of the things we want to amplify as we are art making and writing in flow with our divinity. The outcome will likely be far more beautiful, skilled, etc., when we let go of trying to constrict and control, and we're thinking about, what are people going to think about this? What will be the reaction? Am I going to make money from this? Release it all and allow it to be your channeling experience of that moment. I could do a whole thing on writing. I'm trying to choose what to say. Do you have specific questions around it? It's like a huge, huge topic. There are a lot of really great traditions too that integrate art making and mindfulness. I'm thinking specifically of the work of Chogyam Trungpa, who was a Tibetan Buddhist monk who came to the US, was friends with the Beat Poets. Some of you are aware of him. He was the founder of the university I went to. But he has books and things on Dharma arts, as he calls it. But these are ways of being in flow with the fact that we are creator beings through a familiar language of creation, right? Not all creation has to be like manifesting your dream home. Sometimes what we're doing as creator beings is making a painting. Solar flares are very intense lately. Do you feel it? Ah! That's my reaction. Yes, is the short answer. That's one of the things that I think was contributing to it being so hard for me to have contact with basically anyone but the few people that like make my life function for several months. The solar flares are real. And for those of us who are really plugged into the Earth's experience, like the physical rock, it's a lot. And we're still moving through this season of a lot of sun activity. This is not over. It's going to build a bit. The summer's going to be interesting. Just got to roll with it, right? And as you know, for those of you who were here last night, that's another place where we want to be tapping into that wisdom, that the discomfort that we're experiencing is often not about us at all. It's energy that's moving through, whether we've picked it up through our conditioning or we're experiencing the collective or literally the experience of our sun. It's moving through. It is not you. That can help, certainly me. It helps quite a bit to remind myself of that when my body is freaking out, my emotions are everywhere, and I'm just like, what? Is it memories that hold energy in our bodies? That is part of how we do it. Yeah. So, you know, trauma lives in the body, and it is cellular, it is chemical, and emotion is both very physical and very energetic. And it is one of the keys to navigating this reality. We are deeply emotional beings, and that is something that is more rare in existence. That is part of why we're here. And that's why when we're tuning into energies, for those of you who've had sessions with me, several of you have, you know, you'll notice that we'll tune into a specific urge, and then I'll ask, all right, well, is there a memory that goes along with that? It's not that the memory itself is all that's holding the energy there, but it's the easiest way to access that thread. Because usually there's some sort of inciting event that creates a little attachment of that emotional energy, and then it makes that particular kind of experience or emotional response extra sticky, so that in the future more stuff can clump onto it. So it morphs over time and can become very complex. But ultimately it's an energy that then ends up with a biochemical anchor in the body and influences your various levels of being. And so that's one of the reasons it's so important for us to feel our feelings. This is a lifetime lesson for me. I'm going to own that. I have an Aquarius moon. We have to feel our feelings, ideally in the moment that they arise. It's that moment of pushing it aside, denying it, making it smaller, that allows that latching on to happen. Emotions are meant to run through us, right? We are these vessels, these channels, talking about opening your feet that can't run through if your feet are closed. So moving it through, allowing it to wash. You can even imagine that there's like fluid, golden light water moving through you, clearing out. And I will do that if I'm having really big feelings and I'm feeling kind of like unmoored. I'll open up my foot portals and ground myself into the energetic body of the earth. And then I will imagine I'm getting just like a huge deluge of water coming through me, allowing it to wash through whatever it is. We are not actually intended to hold on to our feelings. That is something that has developed. And in cultures where big emotional expression, tears, anger, etc., where it's not okay to be afraid, when that is super prevalent and baked into all parts of culture, it is harder for us to move into a default neutral state, which is why most of us are spending huge chunks of our adult life so far working on clearing old stuff. That's also a part of our work here on the planet as new dimension healers and light bearers, is that a lot of us carry old gunk that didn't get cleared in other lifetimes, and this is where we do it. To cry the unshed tears. To get angry when previously it wasn't safe to be angry. To say, holy shit, I am terrified of this, instead of continuing to front. That's the real power, right? Like, Brene Brown is totally right. Like, there's no bravery without vulnerability. That vulnerability for us as a community, that is one of our true superpowers. Our ability to be that self-aware and to work with our energy and our emotions. And when we work with ourselves and our own energy, we are inevitably working for the whole collective. And that can sound like a trite little thing people throw out. Energetically, it is 100% literally true. Claudia, I feel called to be vegan and I crave chicken and salmon. Then there's something in those foods that your body's wanting. I've done, I think, a video in the past about meat eating and spirituality, and there is such an important piece working with these bodies, talk about memories and emotions and all of that. Being vegan, because you're called to it, like in a deep, clean, joyful way, is a wonderful, beautiful thing. Not all bodies are physically built to manage that. I myself tried multiple times to be vegan and literally ended up with pneumonia each time. Trying to eat healthily, everything, like there are certain components my body has to get from animal protein, and that's my build, right? Not everybody's like that. And so figuring out, like, what is it that's pulling me to this? Is it the health? Is it the flavors? Is it ethics? Is it environmental? And then removing the judgment and guilt from the equation so that you can get really clean with it. That will not only shift your relationship with the veganism itself, it will also clarify what is it that your body actually needs. Maybe you need to be part-time vegan. Maybe it's you're vegan 90% of the time, and then 10% of the time you're having chicken and salmon. In particular, for the work that we're in right now, when you're actively awakening and expanding, amplifying, and bringing your purpose work into the world, in those early stages, your body needs a lot of extra minerals and healthy fats. This is something we don't talk about enough. Like, there is actual work happening for your body, for your brain. Your brain runs on glucose and is made of fat. And there's only so much fat that you can healthfully have in a vegan diet. And there's also the question of how are you approaching veganism? So one thing that can happen when people go vegan is that they then end up wandering into a lot of processed foods. And we don't think of them as processed, but that's what they are, right? Like seitan is pretty processed. And that's not to say it's bad, right? But these are all different elements that are impacting how your body's receiving and using its nourishment. And the most important thing is for your vessel, the tool of you, to be healthy, nourished, grounded. And if you're having difficulty grounding on a vegan diet, you may need to think about weaving in something else to balance that out, because that can be one of the things for people like us in particular that can be a little bit of a trade-off. And we all have our own balance, but keep that in mind. If your body is communicating to you through cravings, that means you are in lack somewhere, and that is something to give full love and compassion and noticing to. Your body's speaking to you. Think of it as like a child who has an unmet need. Meet it lovingly. All kinds of music can move us. You know what is one of my spiritual juice up jams? It's a song called, so it's a famous song, it depends on it. It's called La Canción, and it's like a kind of reggaeton dancey song. I really like the version by the artist May, M-A-Y-E. But I think it's a J Balvin song. But this whole song is about like a lost love and like getting drunk together and like all of this sort of like dance club imagery. And I love listening to that before I go to ceremony. Like, it doesn't matter what the content is, it matters what your soul reaction is and how does it make you feel, right? Like, you feel open and in your divinity, or are you like kind of cramming into a particular version of yourself? I really encourage us all to let go of like there's a right way to be spiritual, to be aligned, to be luminous on this planet. All that matters is what's right for you. Thanks for the gifts, y'all. Yes, spiritual does not equal vegan. True. But I think one of the things that has really drawn lots of spiritual people towards veganism is that hunger to be in alignment and in good relationship with the environment and the land around us. Especially for those of us living in the United States, this is a really tricky one. I mean, we are so desensitized to how messed up our relationship with the environment is. Even for those of us who pay attention, there are always new layers of just like, oh, for me. Yeah. Oops, something happened there. We're meant to be a diversity of experience here. And we're meant to be outside of judgment and to move through different phases and to change as we go. And some of us love being vegan, which is awesome, right? It's the judgment piece that I'm really wanting to point towards. If you're becoming vegan out of judgment, that's an energy to move before fully blossoming in it. If you're in it and love it, fantastic. It's a wonderful way to care for the planet and the community around you and your body. Wonderful. Yeah. This is going to be a thing that I'm talking about a lot this year, is the issue of judgment. Especially as spiritual practitioners, it can be so easy to get lost in the right way or to become sort of purity obsessed. And there's a lot there. Frankly, there's also a lot of privilege woven into some of the purity obsession that flows through certain spiritual circles at this point. And so often the issue isn't the actual content, it's what's the energy and intention we're holding around it. We all get to choose how to be with our bodies and in this world. Yay! We have cats joining. Hey, Lauren. Yeah, purity obsession is totally a whole live unto itself. I should start keeping a list. What flows in the moment is what flows. But it's something, you know, especially now that we're noticing like spirituality and sort of alternative medicine and Eastern practices, all of these have sort of normalized a lot in many sectors of culture. And with that, there are also these new sort of crystallizations of judgment and wanting to regulate who's on the inside and who's on the outside based on these sorts of practices. Like, I can't tell you the number of people who have been so condescending and judgy when I tell them that I eat meat. They're like, I can't believe the work you do. And I can't believe you can do the work you do and eat meat. I'm like, I feel like you're misunderstanding this whole reality if that's the case. And understandable how one gets to that place, right? Like, we're fed those messages everywhere. And I would love for us to pull the phallus out of the butt. Like, yeah, let's have fun. Let's stop fighting with each other. Let's celebrate our differences. Because the judgment, in a way, is part of how we reinforce sameness, which is not what we're here to do. We are all here to upset the apple cart in our own way. Sometimes it's tiny, sometimes it's huge, but that requires that we be in our authenticity. Great question. Knowing that an animal has suffered for my meal. Well, part of it is because I ascribe personhood to all things. Putting animals above plants is a hierarchy that doesn't really make sense to me, particularly because, my personal spirituality is rooted in plants, and I have really developed relationships with plant consciousness. So there are a lot of factors that go into this. So there's that one piece. It's kind of like a further extension of, people who only believe in saving the cute animals. Second is that this is a part of the cycle of being here for me, right? Everything I'm about to say is just me. I'm not preaching to anyone. This is a part of the cycle of being here. Our bodies are built in a certain way, and mine happens to need certain kinds of protein. And I'm very mindful about it. I don't just go crazy when my body isn't needing that. It's medicinal. And so I make choices around source. I offer gratitude. I am an energetic reciprocity with the land. Because ultimately, the way I view this reality is that we are all just individual cells of a one being. Right? Like right now, Gaia's neuronal cells are talking to themselves. And that's what all of our human interactions are to me. I am not okay with industrial farming and the lives that so many animals live here. That is one piece that I have to hold and be with. That I cannot be in perfection with basically anything, right? Like that concept, going back to purity, right? That concept is a construct that for me is one about disciplining populations. So I make choices that feel aligned. I do not put judgment on others around what is right and wrong for their body. And I cultivate my relationship with Gaia and the animal kingdom very directly. In an ideal world, I would love to be 100% plant-based. That would be amazing. That would fit with my ethics, especially around climate change. That is not the reality I'm in, and so I have to take that as medicine in my life, right? Like, if my body's not built to actually function that way, what am I supposed to be learning in that? What are the energies that are to be moved in that? How am I influencing others through the reality of this experience? We don't have one path to walk. We all have to figure out, what is the path I am cutting with my machete? And for me, part of that is being an incredibly open channel, spiritual, basically 24/7, which sometimes to others doesn't look spiritual. And I consume animals, which to me are people. That's the truth of it. That's the fact of it, right? It's pushing away those parts and being like, ew, shadow, that is actually to me the biggest problem. Trying to move outside of systems of profound suffering is a part of the problem. Or moving out of systems of profound suffering, that is what I'm trying to work towards. And there are animals who are able to have beautiful, luscious lives, who are deeply nourished, who are treated with reverence. And then they are brought into the place of their life where it is ended for the service of the larger whole. If we look at many different indigenous groups, their perspective on eating animals is one of deep reverence, that this is a living prayer. And it's honestly not exclusively, obviously, but within this country, the way we hold it, it's pretty white, the way that we interact with ethics and eating meat. There's a lot to unpack there. It's very messy. And we're just the very beginning of this. So yeah, being really conscious about it is basically how I work with it. And I don't run from suffering. That's another thing that probably separates me from a lot of other people, is suffering to me isn't something to avoid. It is a truth of being on this planet. It is an unavoidable teacher in choosing to be on this planet. And for the vast majority of the people on this planet, it is one of the main reasons they've chosen to come to this reality, because it doesn't exist in that form outside of here for the most part. There are a few tiny exceptions, but here it's super amplified. So that's my answer. Yeah, and so when we're encountering people who can't reconcile a deeply spiritual life with eating animals, I think that that's a place for us to work on our own judgment, right? Why does that bother me? What's inside of me that's unresolved, that what their opinion is impacting me? We all want to stay in our own canoe, right? Like, that's my thing. As I keep saying, stay in your canoe, mind your own business, right? Like, that's how we are able to stay in our truth and authenticity without getting drawn into whatever someone else's truth. Because there are people on this planet who it is absolutely their truth and it is their soul's path to be experiencing the eating of other animals as a horrible ethical violation and nothing but just like straight like horror, right? Like a horror film. These two things are not in conflict. Divine consciousness cannot be in conflict with itself. It's only from this embodied earthly experience that it seems like there's a conflict. But divinity is here to experience all that is. And it's only from this human perspective that we place judgment on this is good, this is bad. And that can be very difficult to hold, and it does bring up some tricky dinner conversation topics because we can get into like the children, etc. Excuse me. And that is a whole other life. Okay, thank you. I'm like about to go down that, and Spirit's like, stay the course. Okay. Yes, I actually am certain that plants suffer. Plants have consciousness, and there's actual what's the name of that book? It might be called The Hidden Life of Trees. It's written by a German forester dude. Pardon my voice here, guys. And let me hit the fairy juice. It's like high quality salt and a lot of lemon. So in this book, which I recommend to everyone, he talks about how we are now able to measure basically the voice of trees, that there's a particular frequency at which their roots communicate to each other, and trees that are in extreme drought, you can measure on their roots the sound emanation, and they're basically screaming. Plants suffer. We just don't recognize it because we're so focused on the human-centered experience. I'm actually about to just post a video about this. We're so programmed to process information through our ethical lenses and the truths that happen through our bodies, right? Our interpretation of reality is largely formed by the fact that we have these particular forms that function in a certain way. So plant consciousness seems like a joke to the majority of the people around us. But I am here to tell you, they are conscious. They feel pain in their own way. They also have a ability to be in community, to care for their young, to sacrifice themselves for others, including those who are cross-species. Read this book. It's so good. The Hidden Life of Trees. Almost sure. His last name starts with a W. Yeah, we're all cycle breakers in one way or another, all of us here in this chat. I like that. This idea that, judging the way another person eats is maybe a signal of where they are on their journey. I'm trying to move myself out of like the hierarchy of, because there isn't actually a linear progression. But yeah, it does signal like, oh, this is the kind of dimensional pocket they're inhabiting. That isn't necessarily resonant with where I am. But this is also a part of how the ego consciousness tries to manage a kind of infinitely expansive reality, right? Like as people are entering into their spiritual lives and are moving down that path, I think almost all of us have gone through stages where we can be pretty self-righteous and judgy about the right way to do it. And so I like to encounter those people when I'm in my grounded, rooted self. I like to encounter those people and offer them quietly just love, right? Like, I see where you're at. I've been there. Keep going, like, don't attach. And in this culture, we often think of children as being lesser, but that is not what's happening for me. So when I say this, know that this is not a condescending thing. It can be really helpful for me to sort of see people at those points of development as basically being at like a lower school grade level, right? Like as a 6th grader, I'm not going to judge a 2nd grader because they can't do math at the same level. They're just not there yet. It's not time for them to be there yet. Who am I to say that they should be here instead of there, right? That's their soul's business. It's not mine. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good thing to point out too, is that, our bodies go through seasons and phases of life. And I know for me, my need for animal protein really increased when I became a mother. It also really shifted when I entered into regular plant medicine work. And then again, another shift when I became a full-time channel, like professionally. So we want to be tuning to all of these things, and it's harder to tune to our body's shifting needs if we're dogmatic about what has to be the way. So it's good to listen and to shift as our seasons shift. I do all kinds of things. Hefa Jade. You're asking if I teach classes or offer mentorship. Yes. So you can follow the link in my bio. I have a link tree, and there you'll find, I actually have 2 live channeling events that are coming up next weekend. One online, which is donation based. I'm hoping to just get as many bearers of light into that space for activation as possible. It's not about like making money. I want spread the word. We need to get people juiced up. Right? Especially because this is going to be a rough year for the collective. Really rough year. And for us, that can be particularly luminous, right? Like we're able to be in our purpose and in service to others and to ourselves. So I'm going to try and do some of these things that are more donation based, making it much more accessible. It's on a weekend, so hopefully people are available to do that. So follow that. You can follow through the Eventbrite for that. I also, if you happen to have access to Northern California next weekend, I will be in Berkeley doing an afternoon of direct voice channeling, and then an hour sound bath to help people integrate the activations. People are getting really high when I'm channeling recently, to the point that it's been a little bit of a challenge for some. And so I'm gonna help people come back in and integrate those light codes a little more fully, so that they can go into their life and not feel quite so astral. And I would love for any and all of you to join me in either one of those. So those are the immediate options. There's also a link in there if you want to do one-on-one sessions with me. That is my main work, and that takes many different forms. So I meet people where they're at. Sometimes they want channeled information. Sometimes they're there for mentorship. I work a lot with people who are energetically sensitive, who are actively awakening. That's my crew. And so I teach people all the things that I do and know, like tune into what are your particular gifts? What are you working with? And the modality is that it's me embodying divinity in my soul in conversation with your soul. So I'll speak in a we quite often, because it's sort of this concert of my soul, your spirit team, all of that. And I'm basically serving as a conduit for you to get direct guidance. And a lot of times what we're doing in those sessions is clearing conditioning, because that's what like everybody's soul is hungry for us to do in general, but especially this year. We are here to clear the crap that is keeping us from being in our full joy and expression and purpose. And so through a few different things, through talking and coaching you, we move energy out. And sometimes, there's some energies or at certain levels of development, people can't do it themselves. So I will actually basically reach in there and pull it out, and I'll guide you on how to receive that. But my intention always is to be teaching just as much as I am doing, if not more so. I want to become useless to you over time. Each and every one of you are luminous masters. You just can't remember yet. And so I'm just here to sort of walk alongside you until you get to that point where you're like, oh yeah, I got this. I'm going to take it and run. Peace. I love that. And then I'm going to be offering other things through the year. I'm trying to set up some retreats. There are a lot of pieces. There are just so many offerings that want to come through me, and I'm not queen of the logistics. I keep trying to get the right help. We're figuring it out. The 3D part is the hardest part for me. So if any of that interests you, please click through. We can email if you want more information, things like that. But I'm part of why I was in such incubation for the last 9 months. It was in preparation for this year that we're in now, because I know that I'm super in the public, super available for service, doing sound baths, couples sessions. I'm also available, this is something that has just started to happen, but I'm able to come and do small groups, or I've had people who are interested in having me come travel out to where they live and do an intensive, and we can do a 2 to 3 day, just basically a huge range of things are an option there. I'm also a shamanic practitioner, and so there are a lot of works that kind of come through that space as well. That's the nutshell. Let me know if you have questions. You can email me. There's a link in my bio. I like that. Creator doesn't care how you eat, only how you treat the things that you your food. I have not seen or experienced walking trees. I don't know anyone directly. I've heard this phenomenon floating about. Here I'm got a question. Will me and Harlem get through this? Gut level answer, knowing nothing, is not together. And that is the alignment. But yes, inevitable, you will get through this. Yes. This is a wonderful example. I cheat. I get groups together. I get them dancing and singing. My work is basically doing itself. Beautiful. This is sacred work. This is key. Dance is huge. I'm working right now on this like grid work dance practice that is so satisfying. And I'm really tuning in to how powerful it is to get people's bodies into the same space, emanating, echoing off of each other, working the earth grid, and just being in joy, right? Dance is one of the best ways to move energy. If you are feeling off or like you picked up someone's stuff, put on one of your power jams and really shake it out. Really shake it out. I mean, like truly unhindered, bam. I need to plug my phone in. I'm going to be back in just a minute, guys. Speak amongst yourselves. Maybe have an easier setup here. Let's see what's happening here. Let's do this. Plugging in the phone. Does this work? Why aren't you working, my friend? Thanks for your patience. Ooh. I'm clairaudient. How can I blow the door wide open on that? Congratulations. Okay, so I'm tuning in with your soul. Silence is the first thing that comes up. Really cultivating a relationship with silence. Regularly. So you want to think of this as kind of like nourishing your ears, even though it's not actually this that's where the information is coming in, but your ego consciousness works with it that way. So think of it as like feeding the clairaudience to give yourself a little bit of true silence, or as close as we can get to it, every day. Spend time in like noise canceling headphones even. That's your way of clearing the space, because that's really, it feels like all that's really preventing you from busting wide open with this is there's clutter. And so clearing your energy twice a day, we should all be doing this when you wake up and before you go to bed. Clear your energy. Giving yourself silent spaces and silent mindful spaces. Listen deeply, listen internally. Speak the intention that you're growing this awareness and skill in yourself. And also they're pointing out that your clairaudience, that there can be an assumption that clairaudience is like particular discrete messages coming through, but it's also the random sounds. It's the rustling that seems to come out of nowhere, the shrill, like whining sound that a lot of us hear in moments of activation, but for you, there's more happening there. there are all of these little phenomena. The sound of your own heartbeat in your ear actually is an interesting one that can really tune your awareness. Yeah. Practice. Ah, she gave you a new job. Feral dance. That's really exciting. That might be overwhelming for my senses. I love anything with the word feral in it, though. Thanks for the love, y'all. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. If you're always listening to something and never in silence, this is why you're so cluttered. Okay, so I'm going to name something here since we're on this right now. There is work for you. There's the opportunity to clear in investigating why you're always listening to something. There's a lot there. I want to just reach in and pull it out. But that's better as a session thing. Sometimes we want to move more sustainably. We don't want to just because it can be destabilizing. But stuff around, I don't want to get too intimate into your information in this public space, but sit with the function of all of that extra noise, that habit. Where does that come from? When did that start? Where did you learn it? And what is it that you're stuffing into your ears all the time? Look at the actual vibration of that content. Television, music, anything media-wise that we're consuming carries its own energy. When you're watching a show, you're consciously or unconsciously absorbing the energy, usually of the writer, sometimes of the actors, very rarely the director, but usually the writer. So, for example, I go through these cycles where I rewatch The West Wing way too much. It's literally what I had playing in the delivery room when I gave birth. Season 1 of The West Wing. But that energy, Aaron Sorkin, that's a very particular energy. And I finally figured out, I feel called to this when I want a lot of forward motion and also when I'm feeling kind of lonely. Just Sorkin in a nutshell at that phase in his life. Forward motion. Y'all know what's up. Bye, Trisha. Okay. I know usually that there is a little bit of a lag in the comment section. So I'm going to wait, I think, a little bit longer to see if there are any questions that have bubbled through that haven't made it here yet. And then I'm going to sign off, I think, in just a bit. So any final questions, well, let me know. Yeah, and so if anybody's just joining us, I just want to invite you to check out my live events that are happening next weekend, online and in person, and they're in my link tree in my bio. It's a year of gathering, y'all. I'm excited. I'm excited to have been resurfaced, by the way. I had several false starts where I'm I'm back! Never mind. And now I'm actually back. It feels so good. Okay, so tips for purging old energies and trauma. This is huge. So, first, really the key to this is creating a safe space and being willing to be with the feelings. So much trauma is the overwhelm that wasn't allowed to move through, that got cut off, constricted, stuffed, and thus stuck. And so everybody in this room probably knows that feeling of getting triggered, Someone says something, something happens, you have that constriction, and these old patterns and feelings kind of take over. When that happens, when at all possible, you want to put yourself in a contained space, or some people want to be out in nature, but put yourself in a safe space. Start speaking aloud to your soul, just fake it till you make it, and then open up your system, right? Like just imagine all your pathways are opening, and especially the foot portals, because that's where trauma, the hands and the feet are like the biggest places trauma leaves the body. Unless you're in a medicine ceremony, then the mouth. If you know, you know. So space, groundedness, not rushing. Allowing yourself to be the strong, loving, compassionate witness that I think most of us were missing at various points in our lives and really needed. You are both the one experiencing and you are the one witnessing. And so just let it move through, shake it out to get the body involved. You want to think of it almost as like thickness, like a gelatinous substance. Energy is normally, let's say, water, and then the trauma is like a jello, or like almost jello. And so we want to help it move through, move intuitively, make sound. You'll start to figure out what are your personal ways of best moving these energies, and start to think of them that way. It's just energy. It's a particular kind of energy with a certain kind of density to it. It's sticky. The less power you feed it, the easier it is to move it. Finding practitioners, there are a lot of different modalities. Finding practitioners who work with, trauma, or what I sometimes like to call just conditioned energies. Not all conditioning is trauma. A lot of it is. And all trauma usually leads to conditioning. And then for some people, and I will say this is my personal experience, it is not for everyone. I am not advocating this, but I am offering one of the greatest tools for me has been working with plant medicines from the Amazon. That is a whole world of just potent, focused energy purge, sometimes from both ends. The physicalized chemicals that are stored in the body exiting. But that's something to move with very mindfully, very carefully, and to only go towards if you have a deep calling. But those pieces are, it's not one thing. I think so often, especially in this culture, we think of like, oh, I got to find that thing. It's really many different things, sometimes switching in and out through the seasons. For me, the most powerful combination was and continues to be a really excellent trauma-informed somatic therapist. I work with who I call my channeling mentor. She basically does the same kind of energy clearing work and phone work that I do. And I talk to her for an hour every week. That is the single greatest gift I have given myself in my life. Hands down. An hour a week with her is just like, it's everything, right? Like, especially as a highly multidimensional being, magic. And then the third is I'm deep in plant medicine work. And I work, there are a lot of flavors, a lot of practitioners. And so I work with particular circles that are really aligned with my ethics and my life expression, and who go towards sustainable awakening. There are some within the plant medicine world that are really like young about it and just like, get in there. That is not great for trauma. That scares trauma, right? Like, you can think of your traumatized areas as children, right? These are child parts that are stuck and terrified. So like throwing more difficulty at them is not the way to go. And so it's finding that balance, moving slowly, mindfully, trying things, seeing how it lands. Moving these energies, it's not a quick thing. Even, you know, with plant medicine, sometimes you'll hear it's like, oh, you know, like some of these medicines are like 10 years of therapy in one night. Yes, and 10 years of therapy doesn't guarantee to remove all your trauma. Like, it's an oversimplification. You have to show up and continue to do the work every day. That's what integration is. And so often the turning point for people with this kind of clearing and purging is really about becoming fully self-sovereign in the fact that you are your ultimate healer. You're the one coordinating all the other healers in your life. Being in that, knowing you have the power to eventually move through this, allows the discernment to come in of who to work with, how much, you know, like all of that. If that helps. Thank you, spiritually me. So around plant medicine, I love hearing that y'all have had a call and also have not rushed towards it. That medicine in particular, who is the truest love of my heart, that is one to really just surrender to the flow. And when the time is right, the person will arrive. Yeah, so I applaud you in that wisdom. It's a huge experience, and it's one of those things that, you know, it's kind of like once you see it, you can't unsee it, which is a beautiful, wonderful thing. And also it's nice when our lives can hold that, and your souls will guide you at the right time to connect with the person you're meant to sit with. I do not do somatic therapy in person right now. For years we did, and now we work over the computer. A lot of our work too is very energetic. She's also a Qigong master. And so it's a little bit quirky, even as far as somatic therapy goes. We're able to do a lot of stuff, just distance. Okay. This is feeling really good. I always get so juiced up being in this space. It's like hard to let myself go into another space, into the rest of my day. You're welcome to all of you who are offering gratitude. I think you guys are all amazing. That's why I'm here, certainly, you know. Being able to connect with you, to feel your energy, to have this like the tiniest brief window into your earth journey is so nourishing and satisfying for me. I really dream of being able to meet in person someday, and I'm so grateful that you're walking your path and doing the work and taking responsibility for yourselves and shining your unique light, seeking your truth, living it out loud, and all the different ways that you do. So I am hoping to continue posting things in various places. I recommend that if you're into my work, that you go and follow me also on YouTube. There's a link you can follow through on the bio. Because that's where I post like these lives, for example, these larger things. And I'm much more of a like long format person, obviously. Like as a former professor, I have a lot of words. So follow me there for more stuff. And if you're interested in sessions, I would love to work one-on-one, get really deep into your particular earth emanation and journey, what's going on with you, and answer whatever the big questions that you have brewing, the intimate questions. I know this is a very public space. So you can find me in various ways. I'm here at your service. And I hope to see some of you online next Saturday, the 28th. I will do a live transmission, then we'll do a Q&A with Spirit, and then there's a recording that will go out afterwards if you can't actually meet us in that moment, you can still receive those transmissions and activations in the recorded version. So it's pay what you can. Just, if you feel it all a call, listen to that call. Your soul is guiding you wherever it is you're meant to be, whether it's working with me or going on that retreat or taking a walk. Those little urges and curiosities, that's how your soul is moving you into your highest alignment. All right. I will see you guys on the other side. Love you.